in this class, and now we will discuss the subject that why GM crops are not allowed in organic system. Generally, the hybrids are allowed. Last time I discussed why hybrids are not restricted in organic farming. They are allowed, but GM crops are not allowed. First point is that they are anti-nature. You have created something which was not existing in the nature. Nature did not allow us, or nature did not do it, but we did it against the wishes of the nature. Means we did not ask the bacteria, we did not ask the cotton plant or any plant that we are taking gene from you, we are putting this gene into another gene, another plant. So this is really immoral, according to some people. It is immoral. And now, whatever I am discussing, I am not against the GM crops. First thing you should note that I am not against the GM crop. Second thing is that I am not for the organic crops. As a teacher, my job is to give you balanced information, the rational information. So I am not pro GM or anti organic or something like that. I'm just sharing the information. Okay. So this is kind of disclaimer I put it. So they are anti-nature. It is from the literature, people say, and there is no significant evidence to show that they are safe. Many reports have come that these BT cotton, for example, in India, it has deteriorated the soil fertility. It releases certain toxic material into the soil, which can reduce the microbial population in the soil. Such reports have come. Similarly, it can inhibit the growth of the succeeding crops. For example, wheat is taken after cotton. So there are certain reports where they say that wheat growth and germination is affected by BT cotton. So many times it may not be safe to soil and animals. I will show you how they are not safe for animals. And environment, there are certain cases where some butterflies have died because of these GM crops. So the butterfly may visit the flowers, or they will use some flowers, or if they use GM flowers, so certain butterflies have died because of GM crops. So there are a lot of negative reports also about GM crops, but there may be some positive reports also. Positive report means they are safe for the environment, safe for everything. It is still very controversial, but Government of India and Indian Council of Agriculture Research likes that GM crops should be released for farmers, cultivation by the farmers. But some farmers are illegally doing it. They are bringing seed from Bangladesh or other countries. So seed of BT brinjal or some other crops have been found in different parts of India. Kind of smuggling was done, and so it is a big subject in itself, GM crops. So, but one thing I'm sure that this seed company will have full rights, because most of the BT cotton or any other crops are produced by Monsanto or big players or big multinational companies. They are producing BT crops or some other genetically modified crops. So they will definitely force the farmers to buy expensive seeds, and they put certain genes into it, terminator genes, something like that, so that seed will not remain viable. You cannot reuse the seed, so farmer will be required to pay buy seed every time. So that is also so not the good thing about BT crop. And surprisingly, this Bacillus thuringiensis is not dangerous as such. As such, it is not dangerous. It is being used on organic crops also to control certain pests. Some insect pests can be controlled. You can see from literature what are the insects that can be controlled by Bacillus thuringiensis, but it can be used as a foliar spray to control certain insects. It is allowed because as such, if you allow whole Bacillus thuringiensis, no problem. But if you remove the gene and put it into another plant, then this is unethical. This is unethical. Now, see, this paper was published by Seralini in 2014, not very old paper, where you can see this study was made on rats. In the beginning, people make studies on nutritional studies are always made on the rats. First, they make, now vaccine are developing, they are using rats. So they are experimental animals. And you can see the first rat was fed with GM food. The first, on the left side, you can see it was 9255. it was fed with GM food only. They given food, maybe say maize grain, which was GM food to this rat. Another rat, number 2, 9202, he was given food from the Roundup treated normal maize. It was not the BT maize, it was a normal maize, and it was treated with Roundup, herbicide. You know, in the world, most of the GM crops have been developed for herbicide resistance. Herbicide resistance is number one. Number two is insect pest resistant and other stresses. So first thing is that they have been developed for biotic stresses, particularly weeds with respect to weeds. So this Roundup is a common name of glyphosate herbicide, and in herbicide-resistant crops, it can be used in higher doses. Higher doses can be tolerated, and it was made because just to make the maize to tolerate the higher doses of the herbicide, because certain weeds were not getting killed at the normal dose of glyphosate. So you needed certain plants which can tolerate higher doses of the glyphosate. Weeds will be killed and your crop will remain safe. So this was the purpose. So Roundup was used. And in the third case, the plant was GM crop was there, and it was treated with Roundup. Karela or Neem Chadha means both bitter things were there. It was GM plus Roundup treated maize. The food was used. Food from such maize was used. So you can see in all the three cases, in first and second cases, cancer was there. It was there, developed cancer. But in the third case, you can see that the severity of cancer was very high in the third rat. So message in brief is that GM food as such, in the first case, there was no herbicide. It was only GM food. So only GM food caused the cancer. This is number one. Number two is you have normal maize, but you have treated it with Roundup. In that case also, means Roundup was responsible independently. And then if you combine GM crop plus Roundup, then the severity of cancer is very high. So in all the three cases, cancer was caused. And in the bottom picture, you can see other body parts of the rats. This may be brain or whatever it is. Kidney and liver, you can see kidney and liver. So all were affected, all internal organ were affected, not just cancer. Internal organ of the rats were also affected by GM crop or by the herbicide. So this Roundup has been very serious pest herbicide. And see the case of GM crops. This is the case against GM crops. Means, okay, GM crops are safe for just one insecticide. But in cotton, there may be 20 or 30 kind of insects which can damage the crop. You can stop one insect. You can stop what is the name? Pectinoflora, bollworm, bollworms. So you can stop the bollworm, but you cannot stop other pests. It is only made to stop one pest. So other minor pests can become the major pest. So in this case, whitefly, which was a minor pest few years before, but in 2015 it has become a major pest of cotton. Now you should make BT cotton against the whitefly, and against how many insects you will make a BT crop. And then comes the number of disease, viruses, maybe 30 kind of different biotic stresses in the plant. So can you make a plant which is resistant to 30 different kind of biotic stresses? It is not that easy. It is not that easy. So the message here is that BT crop can also suffer from insect pests and diseases, maybe from different. But if you grow them organically, you can see organic cotton was safe. There were many news reports that time that cotton crop, which was grown by organic methods, it was saved from the whitefly. Now see this very interesting study, and this study is from America itself, US itself, and it was published by Swanson et al. And the data they have taken from USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. Data they recorded from that. And they have found, made studies on GM soybean, GM corn, and GM cotton. And they found that this herbicide is not good. It disrupts the endocrine system and the balance of gut bacteria. It damages DNA also. This Roundup or glyphosate damages your DNA also and is a driver of mutation that lead to cancer. So they have many reports say that this Roundup is causing cancer in human beings. So you can see this is the example that where you can see the GM crops were introduced in America in around 1996. They were introduced, and by 2012, you can see they have occupied more than 90% area, more than 90%. Now it may be 95. More than 95% area in America under corn, cotton, and soybean is occupied by GM. Most, or you can say 100% cotton, soybean, and maize are GM in America. And you can see the most of the soybean or cotton or maize were against the herbicide. This picture shows you the relative proportion of crops, GM crops. So most priority was given to the herbicide. ST means herbicide tolerant, soybean herbicide tolerant cotton, and then comes the number 4 insects. So in the GM crops, herbicide tolerance crop were given more weightage. And you can see the relationship, see the second line. The Pearson correlation coefficient was highly significant between glyphosate and hypertension. So what I mean to say that this glyphosate in food has caused number of diseases. This is the list of diseases. You can see this Roundup was related to so many diseases. Cancer of the thyroid, liver cancer, bladder cancer, and so on. And they have got the data also. Based upon the data, they have made these observations and results. You can see because the use of application rates pounds per acre. So you can see the rate of glyphosate use has increased linearly since 1996. When they introduced GM crops, the application rate of herbicide, which is glyphosate, increased in the same fashion, linear increase. So you can see the soybean treated, almost 100%. Whatever soybean was grown in America during this period, all area was treated by Roundup. Almost, they are matching. They are matching. You can see two lines are matching. Similarly, next picture it is the maize, almost same. And then soybean, corn, and cotton, glyphosate applied. So these are the rates of application. Just you can see that the rate of application are very high. So they are increasing every time in the three crops. The area is almost same, but the rate of application is increasing. And what is the result? I will show you 15 or 20 graphs now in continue. Just try to understand only one. So you understand this one. In this case, on the x-axis, you have the year, starting from 1975 to so on, 2008 or whatever it is. And you can see in the beginning, the rate of change in the incidence per 100,000 per 100,000. So this is number of people affected by a particular disease. In this case, it is liver and intrahepatic bile duct cancer incidence. So in the beginning, from year 1975 to 1987 or so on, you see the incidence is very normal rate of change. But suddenly, after 1996, you see number of people increased. Number of people affected by this particular disease increased. So they related it directly to the use of GM crops in their country, plus GM crop use was combined by the herbicide glyphosate. So GM crops plus herbicide use was responsible for increase in the number of diseased people in America. So this is official data. I explained you for one disease, but you can see the incidence of many diseases. The next is for renal pelvis cancers, So you can go through it. So there is abrupt change in the number of people affected by this disease. Variety of diseases were there. So now, because of this, in the previous lecture or just few hours back, I discussed this issue. In San Francisco, a jury found that Monsanto's weed killer Roundup partly caused Edwin Hardman's cancer. So there are evidences to prove that this Roundup is causing cancer. And Monsanto weed killer Roundup was substantial factor in causing man's cancer. So there must be some evidences. Therefore, court agreed that this Roundup causes cancer. Now we have seen the safety issue related to means GM crops. Why these GM crops are not allowed in organic system? So first thing is they themselves are dangerous. Second thing, their use is associated with the use of herbicide Roundup. Now we see the quality of the organic product. A consumer is buying organic product. They are expensive. If you go to your Kendriya Bhandar, some of you might have visited in IR or any place in India, anywhere, you will find organic products are expensive. Normally, they are 2 to 3 times higher rates in the market or in the last or at the retail stage. They are very expensive. So consumer is doubtful about the quality of the product. He would ask whether I am getting the products which is rich in nutrient. Does it have more nutrients? Why should I pay more? Is it having higher quality, nutritional quality? So in this respect, researchers have done lot of research and opinion is divided. One thing you all will agree that organic products are safe. There may not be many pesticide residues in organic product. That is almost sure that they are safe to eat, except some cases where I told you salmonella or pathogens and so on. And second point is that they may or may not be nutritionally rich. Some people say they are rich, some say they are not rich. So this was the first report which was highlighted in the world. It was published in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. In 2009, it was published. And then you can see in this case, on the first column, you can see the nutrient category. These are the nutritional component. Nitrogen means it will be from the proteins. So nitrogen here is the indicator of protein. Vitamin C, phenolic compounds, magnesium, calcium, zinc, and so on. There are different parameters of the nutritional quality. And now see the last column. In the last column, they are showing the difference in organic and conventional. Means where you have higher status. So for nitrogen, you see that nitrogen was more in conventional food than in organic food. Now next is vitamin C, phenol, magnesium, calcium, and so on. There was no difference in these constituents. Means organic and conventional products have the same status of these constituents. Then comes the phosphorus. So phosphorus was more in organic food than in conventional food. And then in the end, you can see titratable acidity. It was more in organic and less in conventional. So you can see that two parameters were better in organic foods like your phosphorus and titratable acidity, and one parameter, that is nitrogen, was more in conventional food. And overall, this review concluded that there is no difference in food quality of organic and conventional food. So this was the report, and then it was circulated through the news and press and media that there is no difference in food quality of organic and conventional product. Then why should we pay the more money? So this was an issue. Sorry. So this was an issue, but later on it was found that this paper was sponsored. Friends, in scientific world also, there are many times some unethical issues which I don't want to discuss in detail. So this was a bit unethical issue. And later on, authors were found to have affiliated with some food companies, this and that. So such kind of things happen. Now, at the same time in the same year, one more review came. This review was from Agronomy for Sustainable Development. It is also a reputed journal from France. So this review, I'm just showing you the conclusion of this review, and which is very important. You can remember that organic plant products contain more dry matter and more minerals, more dry matter and more mineral, because last slide I have shown you that nitrogen was more in conventional product than in organic product. Means there was not proper balance between nitrogen and phosphorus in the conventional product. In conventional product, more greenness will be there. More greenness will be there. That means it will attract more insect pest and disease. It will attract more insect pest and disease. It can have more nitrate levels if it is a vegetable, like leafy vegetable. It can have more nitrate. So in conventional product, nitrogen is more than the organic product, which can invite more insect pest and disease, and they are more succulent also. Means if you have more nitrogen, generally it is associated with watery. You will have more water in those plants where you have more nitrogen. So in that case, dry matter will be less. So here, the dry matter is more in organic product. If you have more dry matter, definitely you will have higher concentration of minerals or vitamins. So this is number one, that organic products contain more dry matter and mineral matter. Number two, organic animal products contain more polyunsaturated fatty acids. Polyunsaturated fatty acids are good for our health. There are thousand number of papers which prove or which support this fact that good fats are more in organic products than the bad fats compared to conventional products. So, and 94 to 100% of organic products does not contain any pesticide residue. They are safe. There are chance that 6% of the product may have some pesticide residue. This can happen because of air pollution. Some deposition by rain or water may be there. Some groundwater may be affected by pollution because you do not have separate water facility for organic cultivation or conventional cultivation. You will be using the same water. For example, if you do organic farming in Punjab, so you'll use the same water for organic farming also. So these pesticides may come to organic crop also. So there is chance that organic products can also have pesticide, but chance are less compared to the conventional food. Organic vegetables contain far less nitrate, maybe 50% less, because the supply of the nutrients is balanced. In the soil, you will not have excess of nitrogen. All the nutrients may be present in just just appropriate amounts. Maybe rather deficient. In some cases, nitrogen may be deficient in organic system. Now, one more paper has come that which gives you more advantage of organic food. From this slide, you can remember that organic products contain about 50% more antioxidants than the conventional products. There is no objection to this point. Nobody has questioned that organic products contain less antioxidants than the conventional product. So this is conclusion that organic products are rich in antioxidant. You can remember they are rich in antioxidants. Antioxidants are the substances which help our body to clean the blood. It removes the radicals or poisonous material which is there in our blood. It removes it. So cleansing, they clean our blood. So for example, tomato, lycopene. Lycopene is an antioxidant. Similarly, you got purple grapes. So things which are having color, fruits or food items which have color, generally they are indicator of the higher level of antioxidants. So organic products are always rich in antioxidants, means they will give you health benefits. Now comparing the yield. So now we are coming to the very important aspect, which is the yield. Many times people say that India's food security will be at stake because the organic production is generally low. The lower yields are obtained. So how we can sustain the food security? I want to ask those people who are saying this, why this wheat wheat is soaking water in Madhya Pradesh just two days back. If you have seen the news, lot of wheat was getting your rainfall water. It was stored in the open, and it started deteriorating. Decomposition will start definitely if you put water in the wheat. So uh, definitely, the yields are lower in organic system than the conventional system. But this lower yield will continue only for 6, 7 years. After 6, 7 years, it will come to the same. After 6 years, I will show you the proof that after 6 or 7 years, the yield of organic system will equal to the yields of the conventional system. But in the beginning, you got 3 years conversion period, 3 years conversion period, and then up 3 years more, the productivity will be less in organic system than conventional system. And this productivity decline will vary from 5 to 34%. 5 to 34% less yield under organic system than conventional system. This report is from Nature before you. So you can read this in detail. So I say that the yield reduction is from 5% or you consider 35%, 5 to 35%. And if you take the mean value, average value, it will be 25% yield reduction. It is according to the Nature magazine, and I have also seen many papers. So 25% is the average in decrease in the yield in organic production system. Range is 0 to 35 or 5 to 35%. So this 5% decrease in one place, in another place it is 35% decrease. So why it is so? Because this 5% decrease is in rain-fed system. In dryland system, the decrease in organic yield is less. But under intensive cultivation or irrigated condition, where you use more pesticide, more fertilizer, the decline in yield is more. If you do or start organic farming in Punjab, the decline in yield may be 35% or say more than that. If you repeat the same thing in Sikkim or hilly state or Rajasthan, where they are already close to the organic system, the yield decline will be less. It may be just 5% or 10%. So the yield decline depends upon the soil and climate or kind of practices we are doing, or also it will be affected by the crop. In general, yield decline will be less in pulses than in cereal crops, because pulses, your nutrient requirement is less compared to the cereal crops. So this yield decline will vary with the climate, vary with the soil, and vary with the management practices, and vary with the crop. So overall, now question comes that why there is yield decline in Punjab soil, more yield decline, because they were doing intensive cultivation. Their soils uh, have been given a kind of environment which can survive, plant can survive only in that kind of environment. I can give you one example. There was a person from Delhi, say it was, say Sudama. Sudama was living in Delhi, and he went to Nainital, Nainital or Almora. He went to Almora and he fallen sick. He fallen sick. So many doctors came, he consulted many doctors, but there was no improvement in his health. So there was one very illiterate doctor, in India we have thela chap doctor or doctors carrying bags. So the very illiterate doctor came and he said, bring 4 or 5 motorbikes and do some smoke. Then smoke was created and Sudama got recovered. The message is that he was adapted to the Delhi climate, Delhi environment, where he is getting so much of pollutants into his body. But now he has gone to Almora, which is getting fresh air. So he could not accommodate to the good environment. He wanted to continue in the bad environment. He wanted to live in the bad air. It happens to us also. So, for example, if my children, if they go to home, they do not like the original milk, which is directly coming from the cow. They like milk from this mother dairy or other dairy, which may not be the real milk also, because they are getting the nakli things, they are getting the false things. So similarly, these soils which are continuously getting pesticide, they want to get more and more pesticide, then they can do better. Otherwise, if you stop adding pesticide in those soils, they will not produce much. Now they want more and more pesticide. So in those situations, the yield decline is more because the disease is very old. The accumulation of pesticide is too much, which cannot be overcome in 1 year or 2 years. It will take many years to cure the deep-rooted disease which is happening in Punjab. Punjab is just one example of heavy pesticide and chemical use. It may be some other region also. Consider it from that perspective. So the yield decline is more in intensively cultivated areas where pesticide and fertilizer use is more. Why it is so? Because of the decline in biodiversity. Biodiversity has declined. The earthworms are not visible in those soils. Microbial activity have suffered a lot. So because of all these reasons, the decline will be more in those conditions. Now you see this is one case which explains everything about organic farming versus conventional farming. So you see this is from J.I. Rodale Institute. This is Organic Farming Institute from America, from USA. So you can see the picture here. There are bars, green bar and gray bar. So see the yield. Yield are same. Green means organic and gray means conventional agriculture. So this is yield of the maize plant, say. So yield is same in both cases. And next you see profit. Profit is more in organic, see the green, than the conventional. And see the third one pair of bars. And energy input is low in organic and more in conventional, the energy input. And then you see greenhouse gases emission. So it is more in conventional, less in organic. So this slide concludes my lecture actually. So you can see that yields are same in both. So you can see yields are similar in both systems. Profit is more in organic and your energy consumption is less. If energy consumption is less in organic, that means there will be less pollution. So less emission of greenhouse gases. So what I can say that organic farming is better than the conventional agriculture with respect to yield, profit, energy use, and greenhouse gas emissions from this slide. Now see this is long-term experiment. It is in IRI. Those who are interested can visit this experiment. You can go to MB14C. Now one PhD student is doing some work in this experiment. This is on rice wheat system. It started in 2003. It is still continuing. 17 years old experiment on organic farming. So many students have done their degrees from this experiment. So in this experiment, we are trying two systems. One is rice wheat system, other is rice wheat mung bean system. And we have tried to develop the nutrient management practices, control FYM equivalent to 60 kgN, vermicompost, crop residue, FYM, so many things we are testing in this. So just I want to show you the yield. Yield in the last column, you can see the yields, the blue, see the blue, it is 4.10 and wheat yield is 3.70. See, the rice yield, the average yield of the rice across 10 years is 4.1 tons per hectare. This is for basmati rice. And for wheat, it is 3.7 tons. So I can tell you, we are also getting the same yield in conventional agriculture, in IRI, what we get in organic agriculture. Same rice yield, same basmati rice yield in organic as well as in conventional. But the wheat yield you can see across all the 10 years, wheat yields are lower. So you should get wheat yield around 4.5 or 5 tons per hectare in IRI. So we are getting organic wheat yield less than the conventional, but rice yield are same. So same is happening with the addition of the mung bean. If you add mung bean in the rotation, you get 0.5 to 0.6 tons per hectare additional yield of rice and wheat. So this is interesting part. Now, finally, you can see the data from Network Project on Organic Farming. I told you before also, Indian Institute of Farming System Research, they are having one network project which is being run at 18 to 20 different places in the country. They are developing the technology package for organic production systems. And they started with comparing the yields in organic system versus conventional system. Now they are developing packages for insect pest disease management, packages for crop rotation, what should be the ideal crop rotation, and so on. So in this, you can see there are a number of experiments they have done, and see the case of basmati rice. Basmati rice is there. Number of trials or experiment was 67, and mean value was 104. Means in basmati rice, the yield is same. 104% means 4% extra rather. So yield in conventional and organic basmati is same. Then next, the range is 88 to 121%. In some trials, they got 88% means less. In some, they got more, 121%. And it was after 6 years. It was after 6 years. So you get more yield by 121%. So just see the average value. So average value suggests, for example, pea, mutton, you get 125% yield, means higher yield in organic system. So from this slide, you can say that yields in organic system and conventional system are the same after 6th year. Or rather, in some cases, organic system can give you more yield than the conventional system. But for kharif crops, see the case of rabi crops, like your wheat, mustard, and sunflower. They are grown in, this is case of northern India, wherever wheat or mustard is grown. In these cases, the yield decline was there. So you can see on an average 9 to 10% or 7 to 10% yield decline will be there. So in winter crops in India, the yield decline is still continuing after the 6th or 7th year, because of low rates of decomposition of organic matter, slow release of nutrients in the soil. So you can see yield reduction after 8th cycle across location of, it was after 8th cycle, sorry, it was not 6th cycle, it was 8th cycle, kindly amend it. 8th cycle across location, 5 to 8% in wheat, mustard, lentil, safflower, radish, and tomato. So these were the crops where the yield reduction was there after 8th cycle. And in wheat, there was 7% reduction. So you can say, generalize it, say 5 to 10% reduction in yield of the winter crops. Now, so far economics is concerned, if you see, it is economics is concerned that average gross income or margin in organic cotton, this is one example from published paper, 30 to 40% higher than the conventional cotton. It is because the lowering cost of production is lowered by 10 to 20%, and farmers get some premium price. You take just 20% in the consumer's price. So overall, there may be 10 to 20% higher income for organic farming. This I have explained to you this certification process. Participatory guarantee system is free certification, third-party certification, and tools or components. This is important. So actually, in organic farming, so far technology package is concerned, there are only 3 issues. One is crop rotation, number 2 is nutrient management, and number 3 is insect, pest and disease and weeds management, means plant production. Crop diversification or crop rotation, nutrient management, and crop protection. These are the 3 issues. And crop rotation can handle insect, pest, disease management as well as nutrient management. So in this case, many times pest management is difficult. So except chemical control, all practices of IPM can be adopted in organic system. And in place of insecticide or synthetic insecticide, one can use botanicals or biopesticides can be used. Now, this is the case of crop diversification. Why this diversification is important in organic system? Because we cannot use pesticide, chemical pesticide, which can immediately kill the pest. Here, you can adopt certain diversification of the crops. So in this case, you can understand very well, this is known as push and pull theory of stem borer and Steiger management. Please try to understand it. This is very important. And you can see there are three different crops in this system. On the boundary, on the extreme left and right of this picture, you see Napier grass. Napier grass is Panicetum purpureum. It is a perennial grass which is used as a fodder plant. And you also know hybrid Napier is made from Napier grass. So Napier grass is planted all along the boundary. चारों तरफ इसका planting करते हैं. We plant it all around the boundary of the field. And then this maize, sorghum, and pearl millet. Maize, sorghum, and pearl millet is affected by two problems. There are two problems. Number one problem is stem borer. Stem borer affects the maize crop. It is the major pest of maize, sorghum, and pearl millet. Stem borer. And then another problem is striga. Striga is a weed which is semi-root parasite. Striga is a semi-root parasite weed in maize, sorghum, and pearl millet. So there are two problems. One is related to weed, other is related to the pest or insect pest. So in this case, in between the two rows of the maize, sorghum, or pearl millet, you can plant Desmodium. Desmodium is a leguminous plant, leguminous fodder plant. So it can be planted in between the rows of the two rows of the maize or sorghum. And then what happens? The adult insect, this is push and pull theory. The adult this Desmodium will release certain volatile compounds. Remember, this Desmodium will release certain volatile compounds into the air, and that will repel, that will push the adult of the insect, that is stem borer, away from the maize plant. It will push them away from the maize plant, and then all around the field you have Napier grass. This Napier grass will pull or will attract the stem borer adult towards it, because Napier grass also releases certain volatile compounds which attract the adult insect towards it. Now the adult insect, male and female, will be pulled by Napier grass, and the female will lay their eggs on this plant. Female will lay their eggs on Napier grass, and this Napier grass will again kill the eggs of the stem borer. This Napier grass will kill eggs of the stem borer. So this way you can see insect is controlled. It will not lay the eggs. And you know, if it could have laid the eggs in the stem or on the leaf, then the caterpillar will come out and it will enter the stem of the maize, you know, the life cycle. So before becoming caterpillar, it was killed, the insect was killed at the egg stage by the Napier grass. So in this case, this is known as push and pull theory. Today or after this lecture, you just type letter in Google, push and pull theory. You will get 20,000 papers or 20,000 application of this technology in the world. In African countries, they are using this simple intercropping system to manage stem borer in maize, sorghum, or pearl millet. So this is how maize stem borer is controlled by this combination of crops. Another interesting fact is that the roots of Desmodium releases certain exudates into the soil, which kills the germinating seed of the striga. Striga is a weed which lives in the roots of the maize or pearl millet, and then these volatile compounds or exudates from Desmodium will kill the germinating seed of striga. So hence striga is also controlled. So through this management, simply by cropping system or intercropping or diversification, you can manage two pests together. This is just one example taken from nature. Somebody must have learned some lesson from the nature and put it in the agro ecosystem. And this kind of subject is also known as ecological engineering. We are generating the engineers. We are just identifying the engineers and then using them for the management of biotic stresses. Now, So far weed management is concerned, you can follow all the integrated weed management approach minus chemicals. Now organic plant nutrition, I think I have taken some lecture on this in organic system, organic plant nutrition, you know about this. Now impact on soil, what impact is going to happen on soil? On soil, they will increase the organic matter content in the soil. Definitely you are using organic matter, and once you use organic matter, the environmental benefits will be there. Your long-term storage of carbon will be there in the soil. So this is good for soil. And also once your organic matter increases in soil, all the benefits of organic matter will be derived by the soil. So soil physical, chemical and biological properties will improve. So this is the impact of organic farming on soil properties. And for example, in this case, you can see the water holding capacity. If you increase organic matter in the soil, the water retention capacity in the soil increases linearly. There is linear increase in the water holding capacity of the soil if you increase the organic matter content in the soil. And then your biodiversity, below ground, above ground biodiversity, I have shown you that you need to increase the above ground biodiversity. Intercropping, mixed cropping, 2 crops, 3 crops, 4 crops in one place. If you take so many of crops, then you can be successful. I have visited some farmers doing organic farming, and what peculiar thing I have seen about that cultivation, that they are doing a lot of mixed farming, intercropping. Of course, problem is there, mechanization is difficult, but they are growing 3 rows of one crop, then 4 rows of another crop, 5 rows of another crops. So this is how smallholder farmers can adopt organic farming, because they can grow number of crops combined. If you combine number of crops, increase the diversity, above ground diversity, less is the incidence of insect pest and disease. This is a fact. This is a fact. So groundwater quality will improve if your soil quality is improving, and your less losses of or less emission of greenhouse gases like this. And these are overall benefits of organic farming. If you are going to summarize all aspects of organic farming, then these 2-3 slides will give you some hint. So you can see overall qualitative assessment of organic farming. Plus two means very significant impact. Plus 2 means very significant or very positive effect. One sign means positive effect is there. 0 means there is no effect of organic practices. And minus means there may be a negative effect of organic practices. Minus means negative impact of organic practices. And double minus means very worse effect of organic practices. So this more plus means organic is good, and more minus means organic is bad. So you can see this, for example, biodiversity. Crop diversity, you got plus or 0. Sometimes it may not have any influence, but most of the time, this biodiversity will have positive effect. Similarly, you can see the rest of the parameters. You see energy use per hectare plus, and the nitrate leaching. Nitrate leaching you have 2 plus, and then 1 plus, then 0, and then minus. So sometimes you can have all kind of scenarios. This organic farming can reduce the nitrate leaching, but it can also lead to nitrate leaching. See another case where you got minus greenhouse gas per ton of biomass. It is all the 3 situation can happen in this case. Maybe in some cases it can be plus, it can be no effect, or it can be negative effect. So you try to understand these 2-3 tables. It gives you all kind of conclusions about comparison between organic and conventional farming. A lot of opportunities are there in India about organic products. I discussed in brief, but so far employment opportunity is concerned, there is definitely scope of employment opportunity in organic farming. And you see, we talk of food security. Yesterday, I sent you one publication where you see how much food India is losing. We lose food from farm to plate, a lot of wastage is there. at farm you waste your food, some post-harvest losses, some losses during transportation, losses on railway platform, losses in storage, and then you cooking losses, and then after cooking, you serve it on the plate, and then a person is not a rich person if he is not leaving anything more food on his plate. You know, in America there is fashion. They will take two ice cream and eat only one, and one they will throw. If you do not throw that ice cream, means you are not rich person. But in India, we are very lucky that our forefathers taught us that don't leave single grain in your plate. We should eat whatever we keep it on our plate. But there are people who waste food. So this is a big story. And every time agricultural scientists are saying that you increase the productivity. Why don't you say bring more storage facility in the country? Nobody says it because politicians are involved there. They will be giving money to the farmers, money to the people. And then we are helpless. We don't speak the truth before the politician. We will never say that so much of wheat is getting decomposed on railway platform. So, but thing is, we will always say increase productivity, bring new variety, do this, do that. Why don't we concentrate on that? That is an issue. So, I don't know when it will happen, but you can see the data, how much food is wasted in the world. So you can see that cereal and pulses about less than 10% wastage is there. This data belongs to world. But I sent you one publication of the NAS, National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, NAS publication, 2019, where you can find exact data, how much food, percentage food India is wasting. So you can see from that publication, and fruits and vegetables say around 22%, and meat and animal products 12%, and roots, tubers, and oil-bearing crops, fruits, whatever it is 25%. So see, large part we are losing, and it is not just food we are losing. We are losing nitrogen, we are losing pesticide, we are losing all kind of inputs. We are losing our machines actually. Machines were used to plow the land. So we are losing so much of energy, so much of things. It is not just food friend. It carries a lot of things. It carries your environmental pollution also. Lot of pollution must have been created to produce this lost food. So many issues are there. You go on thinking this aspect. Then Prime Minister Modi has himself admitted in 2017 that agricultural products worth rupees 1 lakh crore, 1 lakh crore ruined every year due to lack of infrastructure. Government is admitting it and need to do more and more to make storage facility so that our food is not going waste. So what message I want to convey from this, that there may be shortage of food because of adoption of organic farming, but that can be easily compensated by the food which we are losing, so that our population will eat healthy food. Now, you know, malnutrition is a serious problem. Malnutrition and this, what you call this, micro mineral nutrition, malnutrition, micro mineral malnutrition. Our children are deficient in vitamins, minerals, and so on. So those kind of problems can be solved by producing organic food, increase production of organic food, and increase the recovery of the lost food. Now there are certain constraints in organic farming, like shortage of organic seed. So you need organic seed, and some youngsters can come and establish this business. Lack of efficient marketing system. Marketing system is always an issue. Low income during transition period. Lack of technology package. So you can go through all these constraints. They are important because from a student, now I can tell you, whenever you will face interview in agriculture, whether in ARS, whether in civil services, anywhere you are going to face interview in future, then I assure you that many times you will get questions on organic farming. So get prepared on this subject, because for next 4 years at least, this organic farming is going to remain in limelight. It will be in news, it will be in practice, it will be in politics, it will be in science also, it will be in projects also. based upon some experience and seeing the things, I'm telling you this thing. It is going to be everywhere, this organic farming. So you should understand the scope and the constraints also. What are the major constraints which are inhibiting the spread of organic farming in the country? What are the constraints if a farmer is doing organic farming? There may be certain constraints with the organic farmer also. So constraint may be disease, insect pest, or constraint may be seed availability, and so on. So a constraint may be pest, insect pest. So please prepare this subject well whenever you go to any exam or interview. So in one form or other form, you will get questions from organic farming in future. So this is conclusion that yield in organic farming system are generally lower, equal, or sometimes, rarely they can be high also. You have seen last case after 8th year. Sometimes it can be 10%, 15% higher also. But many times people tell a lot of wrong things. A lot of lies are told. They say that some will say, oh, in organic production, you will get 3 times more yield, 4 times more yield. This is wrong. Sometimes people will say that organic yields are just 50% of the conventional. That is also wrong. Yield is lower in organic system, but it is ranging from 5 to 35%. It is not 50%. And that is conditional also. So like this, organic food are definitely safe. They contain very little pesticide, very little toxic material, and mostly they are safe. And at least antioxidant, 50% antioxidants are more. They are better in texture, they are better in taste. I could not cover everything in this lecture. Otherwise, there are studies which have proved that organic products are tastier. Their taste is good than the conventional product. I tell you one example. I have eaten one ananas, pineapple from Manipur or Meghalaya. It was so sweet, it was so smelly, it was very, very aromatic, and I enjoyed it. I have never tasted that kind of apple. And I got a chance to eat some organic products, and I found them tasty. Personally, I found them tasty and good aroma, good flavor. And then there are number of issues, like I told you, that organic farming is also not free from problems. Your compost need to be of good quality. Your We need to look into the contaminants. Contaminants should not enter from the water or from other sources. We should do our best to stop the contamination in organic systems. So, and also certain pesticides which are toxic in organic system should be controlled. They should find their control use. And organic farming in India is getting good support from the government. I think you will, if you start reading newspaper, today's homework, I told you to enter push and pull theory of insect pest management in the Google. And uh, another homework could be just go to any newspaper, just go to Times of India or any newspaper of your choice, and you get search in every newspaper. Search option is available, and just you type organic farming. Every 1 month, every 1 month you can do this job, so that you can keep your knowledge updated on this subject. Just go to Times of India or Hindu or any. I found more in a story in Times of India. That's why I'm saying that you go to Times of India, just type organic farming in the search. So you will find latest updates in the area of organic farming. Otherwise, you cannot keep yourself updated from books, because sometimes books get old. They do not cover all the subjects. So to update yourself, to get the latest knowledge on any subject, you can go to newspapers. So friends, this ends slide number 91. I'm sorry, slides were too many. So thank you very much. And now your question answer session is open, but I want to close the recording.